Okay. As an introduction, we like to acknowledge that our mission at Vose Library is to advance learning, inspire curiosity, enrich lives, and promote community. And with that in mind, let me introduce our guest. Tracy Beck, a longtime Vose volunteer, and her boyfriend, Matt Shannon, were prompted by an invitation from his cousin, who lives in Egypt, to come explore a country that wasn't ever on their travel bucket list. Matt's cousin promised to be their guide, and Tracy and Matt both agreed this experience in 2019 opened their eyes to a part of the world they would visit again in a heartbeat. So without further ado, please help me welcome Tracy Beck. And I'm just going to do a little finagling here, and we're going to get her presentation on the screen for her. There you go, Tracy.
Okay, here we go. Here I am. All right.
Good. I'll be in here.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to take my mask off. Deborah's going in the other room. Okay. I'm new to Zoom. I'm new to computers, so I'm just going to show pictures and tell you about my trip, and hope you enjoy what you see. We did go to Egypt from November 29th to December 18th in 2019. Nora, Matt's cousin, invited us while we were over at the Poor Farm in Union having a beer for my birthday. And she said, come to Egypt and visit me. I will take you there. I'll show you around. I will be your guide. And other friends that were at the same table said, you better do this because this is a great way to see Egypt. So we jumped in and here we are. Nora lived there for about 5 years. She taught in Cairo at a high school for wealthy Egyptian kids, and then has since moved to Dahab, which I will show you on the map. There we go. Dahab is on the Sinai Peninsula, which I don't know how, I don't think I can point, but you can see over on the Sinai Peninsula towards Saudi Arabia. That's where she was living. So we flew into Cairo, and we flew out of Boston, about a 24-hour trip through Germany. Landed in Cairo probably about 8:30 at night. It was crowded, loud, crazy. Thank goodness Nora was right outside the doors of the airport when we stepped outside. And she took us to the parking lot, which was maybe not a parking lot. It was more like a crowd of cars. There's no lanes. It was very chaotic. And so we were really happy to have her with the driver, just whisk us away. We spent 3 nights in Cairo, and then we went on to Dahab with her. So let's see, first day was the pyramids, which I have to say is a very small portion of the trip, which everybody thinks of Egypt as pyramids. But we spent a couple of hours in the afternoon there. We were still a little tired from the traveling. She had her driver take us. I would not suggest driving in Egypt or Cairo especially. The car service there is very inexpensive, taxis. The traffic is amazingly crazy. Walking, driving, everything seems like you're taking your life in your hands. So we went to the pyramids, and here's a couple of pictures of those. And here's the first image I saw of the pyramids was in the car next to the highway. I am embarrassed to say that I always picture them in some sandy desert. They're right off the highway in the city. And so the driver dropped us off, and then he said he would pick us up down below the Sphinx at it was either the Pizza Hut or the Taco Bell, which also sounded kind of strange to us. Here's a view of the city from the pyramids. And there's the pyramid itself. This is one of the Great Pyramids. We went, okay. We went into a smaller pyramid called the Queen's Tomb, and we spent maybe a couple of hours wandering around. We could have hired camels, but Nora said, wait until we do a hike up Mount Sinai to ride camels. That would be the more magical experience, to ride a camel. So we held off on camels. It was about $12 entrance fee to get into the pyramids. They have a tourist fee and a Egyptian citizen fee, which is nice. You know, the tourist fee is still reasonable. The Egyptian citizen fee is a lot less, so that Egyptians can do these things and enjoy these parts of their country. So we found that in a lot of places we went, where there were the two fees listed right there at the entrance. There was some security to get in, kind of like airport security, where you put your bag through a x-ray machine, but the woman was sitting there looking at her phone, did not look at anything going through our x-ray machine. So it was kind of a joke, but it was there. This is a view of the Sphinx down below and the pyramids in the background. The Sphinx was smaller than we expected. They say that pollution and rising groundwater keep it under a constant state of repair. It's a little crumbly, the face, and but that's the Sphinx. Here is a view of the city. Cairo has 22 million people, sorry, 22,000. Very crowded, very loud. There's Islamic Cairo. That's a view from the mosque we went to visit. This was a view from the Cairo Tower we did. And that's the Nile, and that's the city. This off to the left is, and this is an island called Zamalek, which we stayed on the last night before we flew back. We stayed in a Hilton right on the Nile for $65 a night. Beautiful hotel. This is a library in Zamalek on the island, just within the city of Cairo. Beautiful architecture. There's some more architecture. I thought that was an interesting building, kind of crumbling, but beautiful. This was apartments, basic housing right outside our hotel. So this is kind of what the basic houses look like, and apartments in the city. There's some houseboats on the Nile, and you'll see this mosque tower in the back. There, in a lot of the pictures, you'll see these mosques. Every neighborhood has a mosque, and it's really amazing to hear the call to prayer. The first morning we were there, before sunrise, here we are jet lagged, sleeping, and that was what I heard, and it was just beautiful and surreal and amazing. That is the view from our Hilton Hotel on the Nile. So that's more of the modern downtown Cairo. Like I said, that was $65 a night, and it was a really nice hotel. This is the downtown market area, and I just put this in to show the layer of dust on everything. It just seems to be the dryness and the sand and dirt, and so this is a, I took this shot because all of these tubes are coming from air conditioning units, and the condensation and moisture is leading down into that little tree there in the street. So I thought that was really interesting how in a desert society, excuse me, they make the most of every bit of water they have. This is the Mosque of Muhammad Ali, and it was built between 1830 and 1848. It's a classic Ottoman style mosque. And at this mosque, it was where we ran into a group of teenage girls on a school trip. It's a museum, and it's part of a complex that has a military museum attached to it. So it's a significant heritage site. And I was sort of accosted by a group of teenage girls who were wildly taking selfies with me because I was an American and I was somebody special to them. So that was kind of fun. And it was fun to watch them try to sneak pictures with their cell phones of Matt, who is this big, tall American guy. And, you know, they were doing that on the sly, and that was kind of cute to see that. This is the inside of the mosque, really beautiful. And the tomb of Muhammad Ali is inside this mosque. This is going into the Khan al-Khalili market. It spans blocks and blocks and blocks. This is a funny picture because here Matt is going through a security gate, which is really the only thing right there, and you can go in any other way. So this is sort of a weird, again, weird fake security thing they've got going on there. And these are just some pictures from the market. Here's a young man who's selling colorful slippers. Here, I thought this was kind of neat because of the Florida stickered license plate, Sunshine State, on the pickup truck. And again, you see the mosque in the background. You'll see that in a lot of my photos. We went to a Sufi dance show. This is Egypt's only Sufi dance troupe, and they only do it like 2 nights a week. And it happened to be one of the nights we were still in Cairo. So Nora took us here. And this again had 2 prices, one for us and one for Egyptian citizens. So, and these dancers spun forever, like 30 minutes probably, to this live music. I might try to play this video a little bit. It's blurry, but you can hear the music. And this man literally spun for like a half hour or 40 minutes. So that was really fun to do that. Say that again?
Yep, so we're gonna let Angie in, let her in. Just say admit. Sorry.
Oh.
Did anybody else pop up?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been looking.
All right.
I've been looking at everything else.
Good.
Okay, where are we? I think we're doing our Felucca sale next. Uh-oh.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
The Felucca, a traditional sailing vessel on the Nile. We did this, Nora took us down, and we did this at sunset on the Nile. Here's our captain, and they are basically, it looks like they're made of like metal, and they have, here's a video of our captain raising the sail. They just run on sail power. There's no motors or engines, and they're big open boats, and a lot of families go out and have picnics and parties. They have like a table in the middle. It was just the 3 of us, me and Nora and Matt, on this boat for our sunset trip. That was the night before we left, so Nora thought that would be a treat for us to do that. Then we go on to Dahab, which is, I have circled in red over there, on the Sinai Peninsula. So in order to do that, we leave Cairo. We hired a driver again, I think. I can't remember how much it was, but it was an 8 or 9 hour drive. And we all just were comfortable in the car the whole time. And it was Nora has, because she taught in Cairo, she had drivers that she used all the time. So, and they were like uncles and cousins. And so that was kind of nice. So I think Saeed, that was Big Saeed, and then regular Saeed. Big Saeed was obviously bigger. So Big Saeed took us, kind of a quiet ride because we didn't speak Arabic and he didn't speak English, but he gave us a good ride. So we crossed the Suez Canal, as you see there. And once we cross the Suez, we are now in Asia because the Sinai Peninsula is in the Asian continent. So we were in Africa and Asia. So that was kind of cool. Heavy security at the Suez Canal, heavy security, a lot on the roads. And so we just stopped and they check our passports and they ask who we are and ask where we're going. And that, again, was great to have Big Saeed as our driver because he knew the ropes and how to do all that. So, and talk to everybody. And we just sat there and waited. So one of the things that's interesting too is on the Sinai Peninsula, foreign tourists, or the northern region is sort of in influx still, I guess. I'm not politically, and so foreign travelers are prohibited from traveling in the north of the Sinai Peninsula. So we went down the east side, down the west coast, sorry, down to the point where is Sharm el Sheikh, and then we went up to Dahab rather than taking the more direct. There's a road that goes right from where you see Suez to Dahab, but we couldn't do that. So we took a longer route, which was fine because we got to see more. We were going to go take a boat from the point of the Sinai over to Hurghada and then see Luxor and the Valley of the Kings, but the boat wasn't running. So we wound up spending 2 weeks in Dahab, which was no hardship, let me tell you. The Red Sea, the waters are amazing, clear, very windy a lot. We were there in December, which is a windy season. Fairly warm, but cool at night. I think I wore jackets and, you know, December is a cooler time for sure in Egypt overall. So it's a good time to go because apparently in the summer it's hot. So this is a picture of the water. And then this is a picture of the streets of Dahab. Dahab is known as a diving destination. Snorkeling, windsurfing because it's so windy, and scuba diving is big there. And so it's kind of a backpacker, kind of dusty, laid back town. Again, you'll see the mosque tower in the background of this little neighborhood, and every little neighborhood in this Dahab, town of Dahab had their own little mosque. And so you hear multiple calls to prayer from all these towers, which was beautiful. So here's just a street scene. That's Matt actually up ahead carrying a bag back from the store. Very kind of dusty, and I would have to say Egypt was the dirtiest country I've ever been to, but it's so beautiful and so exotic, and the people were just so amazingly friendly. These are just some, this was one of the really pretty doorways. Turquoise is my color, so I had to take a picture of that. These were little seats that, this is a little Bedouin house, and I just like this shot, but it was interesting as we passed by daily, these seats kind of moved around. So these are actually seats that they're sitting in and using when they sit out front of their house. Goats were everywhere in Dahab. All the Bedouins that live within the town let their goats roam all day and forage. And so Nora said we had to make sure we lock the gate at our house so that the goats don't come in, because they'll just push their way anywhere, as any of you know about goats. But very common to just see groups of goats wandering all over town, foraging in the trash. This is a typical street scene. Like I said, it was a dirty place, but still beautiful, still beautiful. This is just some construction that was going on. I found this interesting because you see the bones of the structure and then you see the finished one right next door. So I thought that was neat to see. That is a tower on a mosque being built. And that's the staging that they use to get there. This is just the start of a building, a brick foundation of probably some kind of homes that they're going to be. This was a mosque near a beach, so it's a little more casual, I guess. This is no camels or horses on the beach. We liked that sign. And then this is a different beach that allowed camels. And you see a scuba diver there, and people everywhere we went, there were scuba divers. And I did it myself. I'll show you up the area where I went scuba diving and tell you a little bit about that. And this is a woman in scuba gear. And you can't tell that much in this picture, but she almost has like a black, maybe neoprene skirt, just modesty in a Muslim country. So the women had, you know, everything covered, and this neoprene over their skirt, over their wetsuit. Again, camels allowed on this beach. This is going to the Blue Hole. So we had this adventure where we went to the Blue Hole. This is 130 meters deep. Yeah, this is 130 meters deep. And you can see some people scuba diving in there. It is very famous for free diving, which is where people dive down without oxygen. And so this is one of those places that's known throughout the world for free diving. And it's interesting to see this picture just because the landscape is literally mountains and water. And that's basically what we saw everywhere we were in Dahab area. So this is a Google Maps shot of the Blue Lagoon, which is where we're heading from the Blue Hole. Nora took us for an overnight trip. She had a Bedouin friend who ran a camp on the Blue Lagoon area. So we'll show you the Blue Lagoon in person now. Here we are walking from the Blue Hole picture that I just showed you previously. About a 2-hour walk probably from the Blue Hole to the Blue Lagoon through this landscape. Basically, the mountains are on our left, and you'll see some more water shots, but the water was on our right. And that's Nora right there with her backpack. So we had some supplies packed for an overnight. And there's Matt with his backpack and Nora. We were heading towards the Bedouin Camp. This is a road that they've obviously marked off as a road by the rocks, but otherwise you don't see much of a difference. Otherwise, you can pretty much drive anywhere, it seems. It's all just flat when it's not mountains. This is the water at the Blue Hole. Oh, Blue Lagoon, sorry, this is Blue Lagoon. And this is a big windsurfing area. So a lot of people stay here overnight or come for the day. And those are the camps in the background. So they're like little huts, which you'll see closer. There's Matt with that beautiful, beautiful turquoise water. It was just amazing. We did swim the next day. It was cold. It was a little chilly for my taste anyway. I'm kind of a warm water girl. So these are the camps closer that you can see. And this is a standard sort of Bedouin mats that they lay out, and they're like logs and pillows, and they sleep on those, they eat on those, they sit and drink tea on those. There's our little husha. I think they're called hushas. And so this number 2, that was ours, and right next door to the right was Nora's for the night. And that's the inside, very simple. A couple of mattresses on the floor, but really comfortable. And then next door to this was like the main like restaurant area where they would serve us food. And that's just a typical sign you'd see inside the area here where they want you to keep your shoes off. This is the bathroom out behind the hushas. And so pretty simple, couple of toilets and water tanks on top and a sink outside for washing up. But that was the bathroom facility for our little Bedouin camp. This is Matt playing a Bedouin stringed instrument, which we heard the night before. You'll see behind Matt is a burned out campfire. And I did not have my camera the night of that, but I wish I did. It was amazing. We had a couple of Bedouins as our guides. One of them was the owner of the camp, Nora's friend, and he played that instrument while the other one made homemade bread directly on the sand in that fire. And the bread, and then they brought out some cream cheese and olive oil and herbs, and best bread I've had in my life. And everything was just incredible about Egypt. That's the salt from the Red Sea. Just evaporated into the rock there. Talk about incredible about Egypt, Mount Sinai. This was the ultimate. Traditionally, a lot of people head up to Mount Sinai, hike to the top, and then watch the sunrise. So there's that thing. I need to move that. There's something on my screen here that is blocking. Let's see if I do that. Nope. Help. It's like right in the middle of my pictures.
Looking to move the arrow.
Well, or this thing all of a sudden just shows up. I don't know. I have to have this. Sorry, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, well, I mean, it's just distracting me. So, but I can deal with it.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's not gonna want to move.
Okay.
I can't move it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I think behind that thing on my screen, I have an arrow that shows you the top. And at the top is, there's a temple and a little chapel. That is, find my notes for that. Do I have notes? Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai. It's almost 8,000 feet high to the top. It's revered by Christians, Muslims, and Jews, all of whom believe God delivered the 10 Commandments to Moses here. So it's a pretty important site for a lot of people. In order to do this, Nora, our wonderful guide, had friends, of course, that we piled into a minivan with like 15 other people at 10 p.m. from Dahab, drove for like 2 to 3 hours through these dark mountain desert roads, ended up at the base of Mount Sinai, which is St. Catherine's Monastery, probably about 1 a.m. We were shuffled around in the dark to the camel yard, because this is where we're going to ride our camels. So we arranged to ride camels up to what is called Elijah's Basin. So there's a camel trail that just kind of switchbacks above. Now, Deborah, my arrow's not working. It's not forwarding now all of a sudden. Oh, there we go. There I am on the camel. So the other thing about this particular trip was we were lucky enough to have a full moon, and it was a clear night, full moon. So everything is just glowing. It's dark, but everything just has this silver glow from the full moon. And it was just, I was just like, this is just incredible. This is magical. This was so magical. So here I am on the camel. It is windy. So this is all sand blowing. So you see why, you see my Bedouin guide there. The way they dress makes that's why they have to dress like this, because it is a harsh environment. The wind was blowing. It was cold, of course, because it was December. I'm in every piece of clothing I own here. So that's the camel. It's not the most comfortable thing to ride, I have to say. The saddle is basically wooden with those two wooden, I don't know, whatever you call them, that you'd hold on to, and then some blankets thrown over it. There's no stirrups, so your feet are just, your legs are just dangling. And so we were probably on the camels for a couple of hours, maybe, going up this mountain. So we're trying to like lift our legs up and and our guides are turning around looking at us like, nope, get your feet down, because we were trying to like lean them up on top of the camel's back. So here are the camels, and this is one of my favorite pictures because it's just so incredible how camouflaged they are to the surrounding rocks. You basically see the colors on their saddles, and that's about it. So we ride the camels up to Elijah's Basin, and then from there we have to get off the camels, and now we have to walk the rest of the way. And what the walking is on what is called 750 steps of repentance. They were supposedly laid by one monk as a form of penance. So we stop, get off the camels. We have a little rest and a break in these little tea houses. And here we are drinking our little instant. They had some like instant ramen noodles and some instant hot chocolate and tea. And there's people from all over the world. There's Russians and Brazilians and Egyptians, but it's an important site for a lot of people. A lot of Russians. St. Catherine was an important saint for Russians, so that we were surrounded by a lot of Russian tourists as well. So here is the sunrise coming up over the mountains. And this is what we see when the sun finally rises after we probably got up to the top about 4 a.m. And now we just have to sit and wait for the sun to rise with a whole crowd of other people. We're huddled and we're trying to stay out of the wind and we're trying to stay warm. And we just wait and wait and wait. And finally, the sun rises at about maybe 6 a.m. or after, maybe 6:30. But this is what we see. And these are the view of the mountains. You can see some people are already starting to walk down. And what you see too is what they're walking down on are the steps of repentance. So basically the steps are a lot of big rocks. There's actually, you can see in the bottom of this photo, they're actually kind of steps. But you know, we did this the night before in the dark with a full moon. Thank goodness, the full moon really helped. Here I am coming down. I'm in the blue jacket there with the orange scarf. And by here, you know, we've been going since the night before. We left 10 o'clock the night before, and then we got back to Dahab probably around noontime. So this was a long journey. We were pretty much toast by the time we were done. So that's Nora and Matt. Matt's in the orange and Nora's in the green there, walking down. And that shows you the camel path. So that's kind of what the camel path looked like. And so the night before, here we are in the dark, and the camels, you know, and some of it is like a cliff almost on one edge at some points. So there's just some cool rock formation at the base of Mount Sinai. This is the burning bush, the famous burning bush. And this is inside St. Catherine's Monastery. So after we come down from hiking Mount Sinai, we take a tour of St. Catherine's Monastery because it's now 9 a.m. and it's open. So this is the next thing we do, and we tour the monastery and we see the burning bush, which is behind a gate. They had to fence it in because people were stealing cuttings to take home. But this is supposed to be the descendant of the first burning bush that God spoke to Moses. So that is, oh, this is just some green plants that I thought, wow, I haven't seen green in any of this desert. So these are just a couple of green plants that I took to show my plant-loving friends. Okay, food, yay. We have to talk about food. It's a Muslim country, no pork, beef, chicken, lamb. If you're a vegetarian, it's great. They love vegetables. They eat pigeon as well, seafood, lots of seafood, especially in Mount Sinai. This is a metzi plate, I guess is how you say it, and they are beautiful. Everything is very well presented. This is baba ganoush, eggplant, hummus, always cucumbers and tomatoes and olives and some tahini. And then they give you that with bread, and you just sort of scoop it all up with bread. This was our breakfast plate. So you'll see there's some scrambled eggs there. So, and some wonderful cream cheese, more cucumbers, some falafel, and some ful. Ful is the beans, the little bowl of beans. That's kind of a standard Egyptian fare. Oh, this was in Cairo. This was sort of a chain, local chain restaurant, and that's full down at the bottom there. And we got some different pickles and salads and the pita breads, of course. This is the Falafel Brothers. I work at the fairs here in Maine in the summers, and we have a couple of brothers who have a falafel booth. And so I called these guys the Falafel Brothers, and they were adorable, and their food was delicious. And I said, can I take a picture of your food? And of course, they just jumped right in to be in the picture. So, so we had seen this place in Dahab for probably we were there for 2 weeks, and we finally, a couple of days before we left, ate here because we had passed by it multiple times. And so we ordered from them, and then they sit us down, and we look directly into the kitchen, which looks like this, which was a little scary for us. You know, not the cleanest kitchen we've seen, but the food was awesome. This is what they brought out, this plate of, and we got to just point and pick to anything we wanted in our little pita sandwich there. And there were some homemade chips and some fried eggplant, and of course, tomatoes and cucumbers. This is a lime mint drink. This was pretty standard. Because it's a Muslim country, you don't get alcohol usually at restaurants. Dahab is a tourist place, so there's a couple of stores near the restaurants that sell beer and wine, and you can buy your own and bring it to restaurants. Usually they allow that. But this was something I drank a lot, which is very astringent lime drink. And behind you can see the water, and there's some divers in there, and that's where I did my dive. It's called a Discover Scuba Dive. I didn't have to do any kinds of training or get certified for anything. I spent about $35. I went to Nora's friend's dive operation and was suited up with my gear, and I sat with face to face with a instructor, and he went through everything, told me how to use the regulator, and then he took me into the water, and for 45 minutes of seated instruction and 45 minutes of time in the water with all these beautiful, colorful fish was amazing. I would have never thought I would have tried scuba diving, but it was so easy, and I didn't have to go through a whole lot to do it. So this was just a poster from a butcher shop showing just the different products that were on offer there. And here's Matt with the famous koshery. Koshery is noodles, rice, black lentils, tomato sauce, and fried onions. Very filling. It's kind of the working man's dish of Egypt. It's inexpensive, it's filling, and it's quite a combination of probably a lot of carbs. This, I don't know why all these pitas were on this dashboard, but maybe they were warming, maybe they were drying out. I just thought that was kind of fun, so I had to take a picture of that. This is my Bedouin tea. Nora and Matt were off snorkeling. It was a little too cold for me to go in the water, and so I sat in one of these tents and had some Bedouin tea, which is basically like some sticks and leaves and herbs. I don't really know what was in it, but it was tasty, and they give you lots of sugar. They put a lot of sugar in their tea there. And chipsies. Looks like Lay's, doesn't it? This is a bag of potato chips, and they call them chipsies there, which is kind of cute. You know, we ate a lot of chipsies. And the cats. Can't talk about food without talking about cats. Dahab especially, begging cats everywhere. Anytime you sat down at any restaurant, there were cats looking for handouts, and you literally sometimes had to like knock them off the next chair next to you because they're opportunists for sure. Oh, and the toilet paper. This I thought was pretty cool, and I had to send it back home to friends and family. Instead of the cardboard inside, they have a little separate wrapped toilet paper, which you can put in your purse, and it's described on the bag exactly for that situation. Save you from potentially embarrassing situations. Travel-sized roll can be removed and carried around in pockets and handbags so consumers can never be caught empty-handed when out and about. So I thought that was kind of fun and cool. And I think that's it. Yes.
All right, Tracy.
That's it.
My mouth is watering.
My mouth is dry. I need to take a
Oh, okay. We have one question in the chat, which I will ask you first, and then we'll ask people to unmute. We have about 10 minutes, so people are welcome to either put their questions in the chat for Tracy, or let me just ask this one first. Then I have one, Tracy, and then we'll
Okay.
go. Angie is asking, what is the cost to stay in a place like the Bedouin Camp?
Oh, Well, they give you the place to stay. They gave us meals. They gave us tea and coffee and dinner and breakfast. Oh, how much did that cost? Maybe for the two of us, for Nora had one and we had one, maybe $60 or so for everything included.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah.
Tracy, I have a question for you. You're very adventurous, I can tell. Did you worry at all about safety?
No. And I don't know, had I been by myself and not with Matt, who's my big American boyfriend, you know, I didn't really go any place. Nora and I took a couple of walks around Cairo ourselves when we went out to visit some of her friends. But that still didn't feel unsafe. But a lot of the times I was with Matt, and you know, that
Sure.
gave me some great sense of security, of course. But no. And the conversation came up with Nora about terrorism and bombings, and you know, and Nora said, you have school shootings in America almost more often than we have. They just get more sensationalized press. So no, I don't, you know, I didn't even think about any of that. There's a lot of security like on the roadways and highways, and so.
Terrific.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great news. All right, let's see. Linda Arnold is saying, great job, Tracy. Loved your photos and sense of adventure. And Doug is asking, did you find the local citizens friendly?
Yes, very friendly. Mostly, we didn't come across a lot of English speakers. So a lot of them, mostly they say, welcome Egypt, every time they saw us in the streets, yelling out from cars or, so I felt that they were very welcoming. They were very friendly. Like I said, the schoolgirls were really cute and really fun. There were not a lot of American tourists. We did not, and most American tourists travel to Egypt like on tours or through tours and, you know, tour the Nile or so. That was really interesting too, because we had our own tour guide in Nora, and you know, so we kind of got to do it in a different way, which was really nice. It wasn't controlled, and we had the freedom to kind of just do what we wanted to do, and so that was a nice way to do it for sure.
Yes. Doug is also saying, wonderful presentation. Thank you. Angie's in the chat saying, amazing presentation, Tracy. Looks like a trip of a lifetime. Thanks so much for sharing. What was Nora's home like? And did the locals want to have photos taken with you?
Nora was renting so when we were in Cairo, we stayed with Nora's friend, who is also a fellow teacher at the high school. She was British. There's a lot of British teachers that teach in these private Egyptian high schools. So when we were in Cairo, we stayed for 3 nights in her apartment in a town called, or a section of Cairo called Maadi, Maadi, which is sort of a nicer neighborhood. A lot of foreigners and expats live there. So we stayed there for 3 nights. Then we went to Dahab, where Nora was renting a house from another, was she British too? Probably, a lot of Brits there. And it was just a gated, a lot of them are all just gated houses behind a big wall or gate. It was a 2-bedroom, concrete, they're all concrete structures, nice little yard, nice little garden, and very simple house, but nice. And her friend was, I guess, back in England at the time, and so Nora was renting that house. So it was just Nora and me and Matt the whole time, and it was great.
Fabulous. Abby is writing, great presentation. Thanks for doing this. And I just want to give people an opportunity to unmute if you'd like to ask Tracy a direct question.
I would love to ask a question, Tracy.
Sure, go ahead, Lori.
Hey, that was really fun. Thank you so much. I loved it. It was very interesting, and it's a place I never have thought about going myself, and I love to travel. But anyway, so it was great. It was great to see it. But if you were going to go back, and you said you'd be interested in doing that, where would you go back to the same areas? Would you go somewhere else, and where would you go?
Because we couldn't do the Luxor portion, like we were going to go, like I said, we were going to take a boat and then go back to mainland Egypt, and then travel and see Luxor, and then maybe take a boat or a train. We wanted to take a train back up towards Cairo. So I would spend more time in Dahab for sure, on the Sinai Peninsula. That was a beautiful, incredible place. The nature there is just beautiful. There were other nature sites to see that we just didn't get a chance to. We were also maybe going to go to over to Jordan to see Petra. And after the Mount Sinai thing, we just decided we couldn't handle doing that because it is so close. As you see, we're literally looking at Saudi Arabia and Jordan there, and it's something you can do in an overnight trip. So, or you know, I would definitely like to go to Luxor and Aswan and see southern Egypt down in the Nile Valley that way. So I don't know, we'll see. But Nora, I think, is coming back from Egypt this year, maybe to move back to the States. So we might lose our guide. We might have to do it a different way. So we'll see.
That's neat. Thanks.
Other questions before I read some others from the chat? Tracy, Marion is saying, thanks, Tracy. What an exciting adventure. Thanks for sharing this adventure with us. And Angie's asking, were there bugs or snakes there? Any other types of wild animals?
Flies, lots of flies, flies on everything. Walking through the market area, especially, I'd have to say, that was a little unappetizing just to see all the flies all over everything. And then when we were in Dahab at the Bedouin Camp, we're sitting there on that little mattress outside our little hut, and the flies are just all over. We just got used to flies everywhere. But otherwise, wildlife, the camels were sort of exotic for us, but otherwise, I don't think we really saw any other. It's interesting too, like in Cairo, there's no parks. There's no green space. Not that there should be green space because it's a desert, obviously, but there were very few, like in Mexico, there's plazas and squares and places to sit and join in with other people. I guess along the Nile probably, but it's even along the Nile was not that populated that way. So it was interesting to me that way that there wasn't a lot of like parks or places that people just got together in the evenings or something. So, but no animals, otherwise, I can't think of anything else we really saw.
All right. Anybody else before we conclude for tonight with questions?
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi, Tracy. Thanks for this. I spent a couple years in North Africa in Tunisia in the Peace Corps, and so these pictures really brought it all home. The pictures of the cardboard brown landscapes and the trash on the streets and the cool minarets and the call to prayer, everything.
Yeah.
It all kind of swings back, and even some Arabic words kind of popped in my head. So it's kind of nice to see that.
Oh yeah, which Arabic words?
Oh,
Well, the food, things like mukhlia and tarbuna breads and there's all kinds of things that kind of like, whoa, I remember that. And, oh, I remember this.
Tim had to teach.
Yeah,
He was there.
Yeah, I taught at a trade school for high school kids. They have to pass a test to go on to higher ed, but if they don't pass that test, they go on to trade schools. So I taught at a school for boat building.
Oh.
So he had to learn the language.
Tunisia.
Yeah, he had to learn.
I had to learn Arabic, and I had to learn French too. So, but that was
A long time ago.
40 years ago or so.
I picked up a couple of words. Shukran means thank you. Shukran. And one interesting thing was hammam and hammam. One is pigeon and one is bathroom. So whether you want to order a pigeon to eat or you need to go to the bathroom, you got to make sure you pronounce hammam, hammam. I remember that.
Yeah. Well, I would always greet folks, say spachir, which is hello, and then you say labes hamdullah.
Ah.
You tap your chest and say hamdullah, which means praise Allah.
Yeah, the Muslim aspect of it was really interesting. I'd never been to a Muslim country before, and that was incredible.
That's crazy.
And people were dressed. Some people, were fully covered. Some women walked around in jeans and a sweatshirt. In Dahab, it was anything goes because it was kind of like a resort kind of place, and there were people in tank tops, and I always wore covered, mid sleeves and mid at least capri kind of pants.
Yeah, we always were told that the women should cover their arms. And not so much their heads, but at least their arms, and certainly they should wear either long dresses or long skirts?
Yes, yes. And Nora, cousin Nora that we visited, she had a lot of long skirts and pants and, and the only time we ever wore a head scarf was when we went into a mosque. We went into an actual practicing mosque, not like the Muhammad Ali mosque. And he asked us to we had scarves on all the time around our necks. And he asked us to pull them up. And
The whole babushka thing.
yeah.
Babushka.
Tracy, Elizabeth Ann is saying, thanks for sharing your adventure. Enjoyed it so much. Did you have a chance to purchase any souvenirs or clothing to bring back?
We did. Matt, he bought a couple of the traditional Bedouin headscarves, which he still wears. And I bought a purse for my mom that was made at the St. Catherine's Monastery that was embroidered and beaded. I went to a lot of shops in Cairo that were like that sold local crafts. Dahab had the usual kitschy kind of plasticky kind of tourist things that I wasn't really interested in. I was interested in, handmade nice crafts. And so the other thing I would have liked to have bought was they had these beautiful lamps. Matt has a picture in the market of all these beautiful lamps that were like stamped with little holes in them, metal lamps. I did not buy one of those. That I would have done that, but what else did I buy? I came back with a few things, an embroidered pillow cover, lots of maybe textile-y kind of things. Nora sent us home with a Ramadan tablecloth, which it's not it's just a printed, maybe polyester fabric tablecloth, but it's traditional at the end of Ramadan when they have their feasts. They all use these beautiful, colorful Ramadan cloths for their final breaking of the fast of Ramadan. So she had one of those that she gave to us when we left. And so I've been using that all summer on camping trips, and it's been great.
Beautiful. And this is our last question for tonight, Tracy. Angie's asking, if the locals are Muslim, how did they view the Christianity aspects of the area?
Well, there is a Christian, the Copts. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know that there is a Christian section, there in Egypt as well. And I don't know a whole lot about the politics of the religion there, to be honest. But I do know that the Copts are quite a populous in and around Cairo, I think, especially. The Bedouins, I can get into an hour conversation about the Bedouin culture, which was fascinating. But of course, I could talk for a couple of hours, at least on more of Egypt. But for me, the Bedouin culture was really interesting, and I just don't have time to get into.
Well, there might have to be a part B to your, there might have to be.
Yes, maybe.
Tracy, this has been so exciting because, all of us have had a year of basically no travel. And to be able to walk through this with you and enjoy it all over again with you has really been a lot of fun. And I just really want to thank you for doing this for Vose Library and for everybody that's here. And then everybody that listens to it afterwards. It's really been an adventure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
So this concludes our presentation for this evening, and all of us at Vose Library, thank you for attending our Zoom with Vose Wednesday series, and we hope that you'll help spread the word and also join us on Wednesday, February 24th at 6 p.m. when Tim and Lori Warden share their adventurous travels to New Zealand. I also want to remind everybody here that we are taking appointments at the library starting next Tuesday if you're interested in coming through the door. So good night, everybody. Be well and stay healthy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
On with the mask.
Oh boy, you just made it in time.
What? Oh, I know. I
The
saw
battery.
that. Yep.
All right. And we're gonna